Are you someone with a lot of resentment in your life towards the people that you wish that you could care more about, but it feels like they've been attacking you for so long that the only way to return to loving them is by kicking them out? Any marriages? Any parent-child relationships? Any business relationships? Industrial relationships? Diplomatic? Political? Economic? Spiritual? If you're going through any kind of warfare right now, I would like to invite you to participate in what I'm calling the Integration Fund. I'm not asking you for money, don't worry. I'll be asking Saudi Arabian oil executives for money. I'll be asking politicians for money, not working everyday people. The only support that we will ever want from you is your attention and your love. That's it. And we don't even need much of your attention. It's only if it's valuable to you that we want your attention, because then you might be able to benefit from this process that we use. I will make a separate video where I discuss the Integration Fund in a lot more detail from the perspective of like how it works, what the structure is going to be, what the timelines are, and what our strategy is. What I will tell you is that part of the strategy involves using the discipline of authenticity that I, as one of the co-founders of the fund, have developed over the last 10 years in response to my own encounters directly with very evil people. People who manipulated me, extracted whatever they wanted from me, and then discarded me, damaged and abused when they were done with me. And I wanted to make sure it never happened again. For myself, for my family, for my country, and for my planet. And so the Integration Fund's goal isn't to eliminate evil from the planet, but it's to go after the cause, the root cause behind evil, which up until this point in history, we haven't really been able to do at scale. Groups of people have gotten together in churches and Freemasonry clubs, and they have exchanged ideas about how to do it privately, but to do it publicly, to do it globally, to have every single human being on the planet become free of the demons that live inside our head. Demons like PTSD, demons like social anxiety, demons like racism and sexism and homophobia. Like, we need to acknowledge these voices and negotiate with them and come together and make something new with them. And that is what integration is, fundamentally. It's exactly the same in physics, which is my original degree. When you integrate, you look for the area under the curve between 2 points. You have complex A, you have complex B, you bring them together, you raise them up by a power. You know when you get x squared, x cubed, the squared and cubed bit, that's its power in mathematical language. So when you integrate, if it's x squared, it becomes x cubed. So you have to raise it by the power and account for the distance between the 2 points on the curve. What you end up with is the area under the curve. And you get that area in the product between the two of you. Now, business people have figured this out a long time ago at the high levels. And that's why businessmen were able to take over the world. And for the most part, they did it well by good men. And yes, some psychos slipped in there and did things that were only in their self-interest, but nonetheless, this is stuff that has been out there, but it's had to be secret because the internet didn't exist. And because AI didn't exist, none of us had the time to actually sit down with ourselves and do this, unless we had already spent 50 years building a business that lets us retire. Unless we were lucky enough to get a tap on the shoulder that said, hey, come join our club. Well, fuck the clubs. There's no more need for the privacy and the secrecy anymore. There's no point trying to protect it, because everything in your life is on the internet anyway, and if the algorithms know who you are, then what difference does it make whether Jenny down the road does too? Like, are you ashamed of who you are? In which case, stay with me for the next 30 minutes or so, and let's deal with that. Because I'm going to show you my discipline of authenticity, and it's remarkably effective, and it immediately will give you relief. And I take no real credit for it. It was just the result of my calling in life, to try to save my children and other people's children and our entire planet from the devastation that I went through when I was abused and taken advantage of by people that I trusted. I want that to stop. The more that we learn this process of the discipline of authenticity, the more that stops. And I'll explain that part in more detail separately also, because I want to get into the session and I want to start teaching you something that you can use immediately to start making progress. So first of all, to begin, let me ask you, are you willing to look a little bit ridiculous if it means that you can get rid of the shame that you feel about yourself? Like, are you willing to endure the emotion, the temporary emotion of embarrassment? Are you willing to endure 10 seconds of embarrassment for the sake of a lifetime without shame holding you back? What shame should be doing is protecting you from banishment. What shame is designed to do is to let you know when you are crossing your community's boundaries and you need to stop or they're going to kick you out. That's what shame as an emotion was built for. And one of the many complexes in our modern world is shame, ever-present shame, shame that has been applied across the board due to usually childhood abuse, either in overt and direct ways or passive and slow-moving ways. But all of us have it. All of us have it to a degree. How do we deal with it? How do we deal with feeling ashamed of being who we are in all of our glory and majesty, in all of our weakness and folly? To just accept, like we've heard in the music videos for years, like we've been told but don't really understand. We need to accept ourselves, like the whole thing. So any part of you that comes to the surface, any expression on your face, any of your heart's desires or thoughts in your head, like none of them are worthy of anybody's judgment, especially yours, because you're the bloody one that got put in charge of who you are. So stay with me through this video and I will help you to do what I do in half an hour, once a week. That's all it takes. You don't have to quit your job. You don't have to join a cult. You don't have to sacrifice every aspect of who you think you are in order to turn yourself into a mindless drone of a cult leader. Because if you can be less afraid of being embarrassed, then you can give yourself a route out of shame. And that's worth doing because the shame is currently toxic and existing in a more permanent state in your psyche than it should be. And it's interfering with your life and it's starting to destroy your relationships and it's putting you in these impossible situations. So it's not fucking working, right? So we can thank it and be like, you know what? I can appreciate that the shame is trying to do something. It's trying to protect me from getting banished. And, you know, it's good to have someone looking out for you, you know? So like love the shame, be glad for it, and then be like, right, I'm going to just put you aside for a minute because you're not needed in this moment. The more appropriate emotion for me to be feeling in this moment is embarrassment. Because if I look silly, but I'm not under threat of being banished from the entire village, then I feel embarrassment. And that's okay. Embarrassment is designed to take away the pain of the distance between our hearts. That's what embarrassment is. It's actually quite a beautiful thing. It's really glorious to feel embarrassed. Because when you're embarrassed, it means that you're acknowledging that there is difference between us. And if there's distance between us, it means that we can never really understand each other. We can never get close enough to really know exactly what it means to be you, to be me, no matter how many years we spend together. It's just not possible. The embarrassment emotion helps us deal with the tragedy of what that really means. You know, we're never going to know. And it's okay. It's okay. Because we can play, we can have fun, we can laugh at the differences. We can be embarrassed about the differences. But we shouldn't be ashamed of the differences. The only thing that we should be ashamed of is behavior that we do when we were under the influence of somebody else's demons or our own. So we need to get to work on some of these demons, and I know how to do it and I can guide you through the process. It's hard work, but it happens quick. And it takes a life's work, but it moves very fast. So you will find yourself at levels in 6 months' time that you couldn't have imagined before if you start doing this. For real. And I'm not going to ask you for a penny to show you how to do it. That part is free. I might ask you to invest in the investment group in order to bring it to more people in the world and give you a little piece of the profit that we plan to make while changing the world for the better. So, to deal with this challenge of embarrassment and to start eroding away this permanent shame that some of you might be feeling about some parts of yourself, what we're going to do is challenge you to a few easy to complete but difficult to go through social challenges. The first being that I want you to hit record on a video and start talking about something that matters to you. And I want you to notice how difficult it is, and I want it to be embarrassingly bad. Like, show off the bits of you that are really weird. Do things that you know 1,000 people who see it are going to think that you're a complete X, Y, Z, what does it matter? They're going to identify you as something that you're not, because you know that they don't understand that part of you yet. And if they did, they wouldn't be trying to define your identity for you. They would be just witnessing your identity as it does things in the world with power. So I'd suggest that you gave the challenge a try. Be embarrassing. You don't have to post the video anywhere, but if you do post it to the Integration Fund community, then that would be amazing. It would feel really freeing. And part of the rules of our community is no judgment, celebrate the best in what you see, and leave it to them and their locals, their neighbors, their family, leave it to them to solve that issue. If you detect a little bit of tyranny in their character, leave it to them. They'll fix it. Can you trust them that between them and their family, someone's going to notice that that's not something they want in the family? And they're going to say, all right, what are we going to do about this? Should we get rid of it? Should we go to one of David Caldicott's integration sessions? Should we integrate it into this family? So forgive me, my portable light ran out of battery. I'm charging it. Hopefully it will be back soon. What I want you to do next is pause this video, set your phone camera up in front of you. If you don't have a stand, just lean it against a book. Flip the camera so that you can see yourself in the view. Hit record, and then just speak about something that really matters to you for as long as you feel comfortable doing so, and a little bit more until you start feeling uncomfortable, and then a little bit more. Imagine that you are speaking to yourself in 50, 60 years' time after you've figured everything out, and you could offer some real advice if you just opened up properly. Then when you're done, when you feel like you've got nothing more to say, finish the video and then continue with this workshop. You may pause it now. Welcome back, and I hope that was fun. Next, we are going to perform the process of Kimba, which is the kinesthetic internal memory balancing action that you saw me do in small amount earlier in the video, and I'll put the full clips at the end of the video of what it looks like at the advanced level. But right now, we're going to do it at the absolute square one level. It starts with simply the breath and then noticing. So the first step of the Kimba process is that you sit down. And hopefully by this point you are already sitting down. The second step is to open up, which hopefully you just did. The third step of the process is that you face whatever it is that you're feeling. Is that you stop letting it be localized to one particular area of the body, and you instead move it around the rest of your body. And this is the part that takes the most practice, not because you don't know how to do it. I believe, and everyone who practices this agrees, this is something that once you get shown how to do, you're like, oh, I was built to do this. Like, this is part of humanity. Like, this is in my DNA to be able to do this as part of my psycho-immune system, right? So it's a very old system, and it's very useful, but it's very strongly attached to spirituality and religion and discipline and practice. And these are some things that are easy prey for people who want to use lazy brutes to actualize their horrific nightmares, right? So let's face it. Let's really express it, whatever it is. What do you got to be ashamed of? You're sitting in a quiet room on your own, hopefully. Or if you are with other people, you're with other people that you trust, that you love. Why would you think that they would turn away from you if they saw you make this face? So you don't have to like shove it in their face, but you need to understand what it feels like in order for you to complete the integration process and turn that face into an ally. So how do we proceed once we have faced it? We let it hurt. We don't try to stop looking at it so that it doesn't hurt. We let it hurt. This is a very fatherly kind of thing to do. To just stand back and let it go through this painful experience on its own so that it can gain independence. That's what we want for our kids, right? It hurts our feelings to watch them and not intervene. And sometimes we have to intervene, especially when they're very young. But it hurts to not intervene. So why would we do it? Why would we endure that pain as fathers? Because it's in its own good. And we can see that because we're older and we understand more about what it means to be part of our family. Not part of our culture, not part of our race, part of this family. Because this family has been going on for thousands of years, billions of years. It is uninterrupted for every single one of the billions of us. We're survivors. We made it billions of years. And that's pretty cool. So what are you afraid of? Getting a little bit hurt in the process. It's a dangerous world. I would rather hurt myself in gentle and compassionate ways, in fatherly ways, by pushing a stretch until I can't help but make an expression as I face it. And instead of going, ow, and running away from it, hold it there. Hold it there and let it hurt. Let it hurt. Don't push it. Don't push it to 10 out of 10 just yet, but let it hurt. Let it hurt. Hold it at the 7 out of 10 and just see what it's like if you let your whole body feel the same as that one thing that you're stretching. If you can just bring your whole body into it. You know? In my head, immediately, as I was doing that, I had the image of a powerful masculine authority who has taken command over my ability to direct my own life and is pushing it back. And how I would feel if someone was doing that. Now, I don't want to feel like that if someone else is doing that to me. That's pretty defeated. Here's how I want to feel about it. I'm holding it, by the way, with exactly the same amount of pressure that I was holding it here. We're still at a 7. We haven't pushed it up. We're at a 7. Except now, instead of making that expression of pain, I'm doing this. I'm smiling. And in order to interrupt the smiling, we go to the next point. Let it go. And we let it go when it's ready to let go. So until it stops hurting, I'm staying at the 7 out of 10 at the least. And if it puts up any resistance, I'm going to take it all the way up to 10. And I'm going to make it hurt more than it thought it could possibly survive. And I'm going to make sure that the entire rest of my body is pretty chill. Because I trust my thumb, I trust my left thumb to not suddenly spasm and break my finger off. You know? I trust my support network that is the family of my body, or all of my different body parts and how they work together. So, oh, there's the 10. I was struggling to get above 9 and I had to reposition. The energy I'm getting is like, I don't need that. I don't need to be in charge in order to be the fucking alpha of the room, you know? That's the energy of that. When it was at 10 out of 10, that's the energy. It's like, I don't need to be in charge in order to be doggedly, literally doggedly. That was the energy that came out there, right? Doggedly and aggressively committed to the cause. So you can't change the direction that we're all going. So stop fucking trying. Like, the only thing that we should be trying to control in our lives is how we show up in every moment that make it up. That's all. That's all. That's the only thing that we can ever control. Everything else is out of our control. All we can ever do is influence it. So it's kind of pointless us holding on to pain that got put in our bodies as cultural memory, passed on through parents and grandparents who subconsciously continue the parade under all sorts of different banners. Look at how red it is after that work, by the way. Just to show you how much force I applied there. That was legitimately 10 out of 10 pain. Like, on my scale of what kind of pain makes me feel like I'm about to die, that 10 out of 10 pain is what this part of me felt. The thing is, the rest of me didn't feel 10 out of 10. And that's what this integration is all about. Because this part can't heal itself. This part can't take away its own pain. It needs my thumb to help it. It needs my elbow to secure my thumb, to give it complete control over the physical movement during this process. I need my mind to stay focused on what I'm doing and not get distracted by wobbles in consciousness that might be showing up. And so that's the let it go step. And then take a moment, which is what I'm doing now. I'm not putting any pressure on that part right now. We did the work. We got as far as we could go with it. We might not have healed it completely, but we've done a tremendous amount there. So good job, everybody involved. Now it's time for this to take a little break, and we're going to take a moment together and introduce you to some of your neighbors and how they feel about what's happening and what they think about what we're doing about it. Because we want to acknowledge the fear that makes it soar. And we want to thank it for being mindful of who's trying to dictate which direction we're going in, which is what the index finger does. It's its primary job in consciousness is to direct the hand. Let's go over there, let's go over here, let's go over there. The middle finger is the first to show up. They're the leader. They're the like, I'll go into the dangerous space and protect all of you behind me as we go. The ring finger is about the relationships. The left is about our relationship with our spouse, the opposite of our born sex and gender. The right is about our relationships with the men who are supporting our families and vision together. The baby fingers, I'm still working out them. They're the kind of exploratory types. They're the ones that as we're going about things, they'll kind of get a feel for what's going on around it so that we might be able to get a better handle on the thing that we're trying to control or use. It's how we use tools, right? So don't you think that when it comes to the manipulative parts of our own character, whether we're the ones who are expressing that manipulative part, knowingly or unknowingly, or whether we're getting manipulated by someone else, whether it's someone individually or someone like an entire ideology or an entire nation state, like if we're currently being manipulated with a mind virus that they've put in us, then it's probably very likely that our index finger is going to be involved in the trauma that we feel, how we don't have control over the direction in our life anymore. Because now it's been taken from us, it's been squashed. And then we can't use the tools that made us money. We can't use the tools that kept our family together. We can't use the tools that enforced our boundaries. They're in our fingers, and of course they'll be related. So by taking a moment, you are acknowledging the impact of this part of your body and your life and how you feel about who you show up as in every moment. So by doing this, I'm not going to let nobody dictate the direction of my life. I normally don't, but this is going to take it to an even deeper level. That take a moment step is where the integration happens, where you connect that part of your body with its neighbors and its community and its work and its impact. That is integration. Now it is part of a greater whole, and we are all better able to pursue our dreams collectively and individually. Because this finger wants to have a job. Like, it wants to be able to tell us where to go. It wants to be in charge some of the time. It wants to be able to say, yes, let's go there, let's go there, let's go there. So we want to love and appreciate it, not use it because we're afraid that someone's going to control it. That makes it feel alone and depressed. And when it feels alone and depressed, it starts rebelling. It starts twitching and holding back and getting in our way when we're trying to use it because we've been ignoring it. So let's stop ignoring it. Let's go through those 6 steps and bring ourselves to the take a moment stage. And then when we're comfortable, step 7 is to go again. That means run the process again with a different part. Maybe this finger. Maybe I'm curious to know what happens if I push this finger. Maybe not enough to really feel like it's going to be relevant right now. So a simple exploratory quick fix for some of the stuff that's came up over the last week will be sufficient. Iron out any new creases that may have been put in there by jerks that I might have spoken to or arguments that I might have started. And you go around, you keep doing it until you find a pain that you think you can get to a 10 out of 10 with, and that you think, you feel, is somehow mysteriously connected to the shit that's going wrong in your personal or professional life. I hope that explanation of the steps makes sense. It is a very challenging thing to start doing, but across the board, the best way to start doing it is by watching it, even when it is very uncomfortable to watch, and then immediately trying it, even when you feel completely embarrassed by it. And I want you to know that in the event that you come close to a moment of big release, which I didn't in this case, I did a good bit of maintenance work, but I didn't have like a total transformation because I had that like 10 years ago with that part. This is just, I haven't given it some attention in a while, you know? When you start doing this, you're going to have some really painful parts that when you really get to grips with them and start letting the rest of your body feel it, you're going to cry. You're going to cry out loud, you're going to scream, you're going to want to scream. And depending on how private your life is and how easy it is for you to get access to some nature where there isn't anybody who can hear you scream on your own, with a pistol if needed to make sure that you're safe, and maybe a guide like me at a respectful, safe distance with a chaperone to protect you. Like, those are the kinds of experiences that we want to build with the Cultural Integration Center. And we want to build cultural integration centers in every community around the world as soon as we possibly can, because we feel that this is the number one priority in our species. This is what's going to stop Nazism. This is going to stop the need for revolutions every time the tyrants get out of control. Like, I would like for the next 1,000 years of our existence to be wholly focused on family and technology and development and joy and bliss. I want us to argue when we're playing. I want us to argue about chess, about the best chess moves. I don't want us using missiles to argue about where our state belongs on the map. Like, I'd feel like we're not going to get much done, but we've had to do it. We've had to do it as a necessary evil because we all developed at different rates. And if you take a developed people and you try to blend them with a less developed people on any dimension, it may be economic development or spiritual development, and if you try to blend them without support, without integration, then both of them are going to become weaker, easier to take advantage of by tyrants, and then coerced into battle so the two tyrants can figure out who's better. And they've been doing this for thousands of years. And I think they should stop, and I think that the beginning of humanity's golden age is about to begin, because we've had civilizational golden ages before. And you know what? We've kind of had global ages before, but planetary ages, that's the one that we're at the dawn of. So obviously, investing in AI is a huge part of facilitating that, and obviously investing in quantum computing is a huge part of that, which I'll talk about the role of quantum computing when it comes to this integration process too, because I believe that AI bots will be able to help us to do this when I'm too busy to be able to be in every country at once. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to be able to train an AI bot how to guide you through this process much quicker and cheaper than I'm going to be able to convince a human being to do it. Because they probably need it. And when they don't need it, they're probably so activated in their authenticity that they've got their own shit now. They've got their own project. They've got their own excitement to chase, right? So the burden is on me. The responsibility is on me. And I'm taking it seriously, and I'm aiming for the fucking moon. I want us to raise not 10,000, not 100,000, not £1 million or dollars or whatever fucking currency we want to pretend we're using, right? That's not going to do it. That's going to make it happen in 5 to 10 different places for the next 50 years, which would be great. But then guess what happens when the other places that didn't get it start getting envious of the happy life that they've got over there? Like, this needs to be complete, and it needs to be global. And so we're going to aim for 1 trillion to start with. If we can't get it done on 1 trillion, then, well, we'll have an inquiry, we'll have a report, we'll have a clear breakdown of why we let our planet down by not delivering the result that we're promising. I believe that $1 trillion will produce the result of a cultural integration center in every single city and town around the world, even if it is just one person with access to a group online that they use as a conduit between their local community and the rest of the world. If we do this in a strategic way, focused around the practice of loving ourselves and others by integrating our culture, our psychology, our emotions, our identity, integrating the best of who we are with the best of who they are, and leaving behind the rest for us to deal with in our own local communities. Because the Americans don't really understand what the Arab world needs. So why should they be dictating what they should do? That's nonsense. So let's have the Arabs figure out what they should do about their problems, and let's integrate on the many things that we can around what we have in common. And so we're currently doing it, but only at the executive or diplomatic level. Like, we've got some people who are global citizens like Trump who are able to do effective money-making deals with people from all walks of life and all cultures. But the average American can't. The average American is still swayed by whoever's voice is most resonant with theirs right now, at this stage in their adult life. Which is fine, you know, that keeps a country together, that's important, but that doesn't keep a planet together. And so either we have this ebb and flow of wars that used to be barbaric wars with swords, and now it's psychological wars with the media. Like, can we just stop the war part and do the integration stuff, but without the violence? That's what we're aiming for. And so one ambassador, one cultural integration ambassador in every single town around the world, and then maybe 50, a community of 20 to 50 people who run the local cultural integration center in that city. Here's how I envision it. Whatever your motivation, whether it is you've seen something on TV that says how rich the Americans are, and you get a little question in your head that says, I want to be rich. Like, I want to figure out how the Americans get rich, and I want to apply that to my little village in the middle of sub-Saharan Africa. I want to be the guy who's the entrepreneur. I'm inspired by the stories of entrepreneurs, and I believe I can handle the responsibility. So what am I going to do to achieve that? To make some profit for me and my local community, to put us on the map. How am I going to do it? Well, we could just give you some money. That would help, right? If we gave you some money, that would help. That's what the vast majority of the investment fund account is going to be used for. It's going to be just cash transfers into limited companies that we help them create in their local economy, fully regulated, fully managed. We have a minority shareholding that gives us a vote, but doesn't give us control. And we leave you to it to make the decisions how you see fit, and you just use that money to make your community better. We can do it through money, but we can also do it through blending, through integrating. So if the thing that's holding you back is that you don't understand American culture enough, don't go to the fucking US Embassy. They'll tell you what they want you to know about them. The Cultural Integration Center will tell you what you need to know about them. And that's it. They're not going to tell you that in order to be like America, you have to give up your gods. You have to give up your family. You have to let your children have horrific things done to them as a necessary evil part of success. That's a them problem. We don't want that part of it. We just want to get our head around how we make a little bit more money for our local community. That's what the Cultural Integration Center will be doing for people. And it will be doing it in a number of ways. One of the ways will be facilitating for one of two things to happen. One, that people in those local areas, those towns, primarily cities will be where the bulk of this is, but towns also, particularly interesting towns, particularly towns that have a unique kind of history, that weren't just sort of outside suburb towns, but like had a really ancient kind of vibe to them. We'll either build a retreat center in your community, or we will invite a handful of people from your community to come to the American community or the British community or the Saudi Arabian community and take you into that world to spend about a week or maybe 2 weeks integrating with the best parts of their culture that are going to make the biggest difference if you bring that back into your hometown and get to work doing what you think will make a positive difference, a positive change. So depending on what's needed and depending on what the budgets are, like if you can afford a flight to Saudi Arabia, then cool, let's make that happen. If you can't afford a flight to Saudi Arabia, we can't afford to spend the fund on transit. So if you can get the Saudis to pay for it, or if you can convince one of your local investors to finance the small trip, it depends. Like if we give you that 10K, what's it going to be best used for? A flight to the Saudi retreat center, or investing it into your business in the community? That's what we need to figure out with each project. And it's going to be a complex web. It's going to be a very complex web. I don't know how many towns there are in total in the world, and I don't know how many cities in complete form, right? There's more than 200 countries, right? So it's a lot of people. It's a lot of people to manage and be in charge of making sure that we are giving them the best support that they can possibly get with the money that we have been entrusted to do so with. And this has been my life's work, and this is the moment where I get to pull the trigger, because unfortunately, up until this point, up until the world united behind Donald Trump as a majority, even if it's still a silent majority, but we united as a majority to publicly come out in support of Trump. Because we didn't just vote for him, we told everybody else to vote for him too. And that is how common sense won. That is how we got the reins of the kingdom back, or at least the Americans did. And I want to help bring some of that tenacity, some of that deal making, some of that power that Donald Trump has brought into the American political system, or perhaps brought back because it was there already and it just got stagnated. So we can take some of that and apply it to a guy in Colombia who has a retreat center to try to change people's minds about what it means to go to Colombia. Does it mean you're going to get kidnapped and drug traffic? Like, no, not necessarily. Not if we work together more. Like, you being afraid to come to Colombia and invest in my local community is the reason why my local community is still leaning on drugs, right? So imagine the effect of $1 trillion distributed to people like that in small, sensible, not wasteful ways, and with the capacity to then provide future funding once they've proven that they can do it and they're making a difference. You know, it's just like every other investment fund. The difference is that our goal with this fund is both to make our investors and our communities money, but also to perform a social change. And that social change is, let's integrate our cultures together and move on from the wars. That's the goal of this fund. Because then imagine what happens. Imagine what happens when 1 million people from the UK integrate with what it's like to be Colombian and bring the best of what Colombian culture has to offer and then applies it to the UK and integrates it with the rest of their community. Imagine what kind of impact that would have on science, on art. And imagine if we're doing that with every single country around the world and every single human being in existence today. Imagine if we all were plugged into the Matrix, but the Matrix was one that we built into a heaven. That's the big picture of where I'm aiming with this, and that is why a paltry little £100 million investment is not going to do it. So I'm going to be very loud about this, and I'm going to shout it from the rooftops, and I'm going to make some phone calls and write some emails and show up at some people's doors and say, listen, give me 15 minutes of your time to tell you what to put your next £50 billion investment in. That's what the next 6 months of my life are going to look like, and you can believe that I can do it, or you won't. And if you don't, then leave me to it and let me fall in peace, you know? If you do believe me, then please let me know, because it will really ignite the fire in my belly to keep going and to continue to prioritize making this my life's work as a matter of urgency so that we can finally get these psychos to put the fucking guns down, all right? Let's fucking go. Let's go to the moon.